Brittany, and I wanted to sit down and talk to y'all about my experience as a teacher. I was a first grade teacher in 2020 and 2021 school year, and that was a crazy year for many reasons. One, people were coming back from being shut down from COVID, and I got pregnant and all of this stuff. So I graduated with a sport management degree. So I went and got my alternate certification to become a teacher. So when I came in teaching, it was like brand new to me. Granted, I subbed a lot the year before and I enjoyed teaching at camp. And my mom was a teacher, so I had a little bit of background and a little bit of knowing what to expect. But going in the year after COVID was crazy. You had to wear a mask. You had like little partitions up, and you had to make sure a bunch of 6-year-olds were wearing masks, and it was just insane. All of the rules you had to follow, all of the sanitation protocols, and it was very stressful. I also found out I was pregnant like 2 weeks before school started, and we were not planning on that. I was on birth control, and I went into my principal's office almost in tears because I got hired like 3 or 4 days before I found out I was pregnant. So I was like horrified that my principal would be like, "You lied to me. Why didn't you tell me this in the interview?" Which I think like legally they're not supposed to ask you about it. But I remember them asking me in the interview if I had kids because they were talking about the daycare and stuff at school, or I could bring my kids into the school district because I worked there. And I was like, "No, I don't have kids. Like, we don't plan on having kids for a few years." And then like 4 days later, I go into my principal's office and tell her I'm pregnant. And she asked how far along I was. I was like, "I have no idea. We were not trying. I was on birth control." And she was super understanding. She just had a kid like 6 to 9 months before that. So I'm very thankful for her. I had a great administration, a great team of teachers around me. So it was great. The protocols were crazy. And I started out with 6 kids in my class because all of the other kids were online. So I had to put in grades for online kids who I didn't talk to while they were online. And then I had my 6 kids in class. And then they could basically come in whenever they wanted. So within the first 6 weeks, I went from 6 kids to 12 kids. And it was almost like every week I was getting a new kid. And it was from online and people moving into the district. So that was very overwhelming for me, especially being a new teacher. I was like, okay. And then so I was constantly changing up the seating arrangements, and they had these partitions that were constantly falling down. And the first graders didn't have to wear a mask in the classroom, but they had to wear a mask anytime going out of the classroom. You had to make sure it was over their nose and mouth, and it was just a mess. But I had a great group of students as well, and I really do miss them. Let's see, my favorite part about teaching, I would honestly say it was my team. Like, I had a great lead teacher, and I had a great group of teachers that I still stay in contact with. My least favorite part of teaching was probably the like randomly getting in new students. And it was a lot more than normal. Like in a normal year, like the amount of students I got like moving into the district, completely handleable. I would be completely able to handle that. But it was like every week for the first like 2 or 3, 6 weeks, I was getting a kid. And that was really hard to manage the kids because each time you get a new student, everyone goes crazy. But my original 6 handled it amazingly. It got harder throughout the year when you got more, and I went on maternity leave and came back for 4 weeks. So the last 4 weeks, it just kind of seemed like, because we were basically reviewing for testing week, doing testing week, and then having our fun weeks. So it was really hard once I came back to get back into a routine because my long-term sub, she was amazing, but she kind of just created her own routine with my students, like completely moved how I do desks, put in some rules that I never had that I thought these kids are a little too old for. and then took away some of my rules that I had for my students that seemed to very much help. So coming back for the last 4 weeks was really hard, not only like leaving my newborn baby, but coming in and trying to reestablish that I'm the teacher, these are my rules, because this is my classroom, we're following my rules, and the subs rules, yes, they worked for her, it was great, but here's what my expectations are. And like first grade, they're not allowed to use pens, like color pens, all that, because it's not worth it. And so she would let them do it, and then she would let them always get like scratch paper, and there was paper all over the floor. And I'm like, all right, we're not doing this. Like, you can't just go randomly get scratch paper. Like, when you're done, you read. When you're done, you can work on your other work that you need to get done. It's not just you draw. And when I got back, like the red folders, which are you put your work in, that isn't complete, were like completely full. And I'm like, okay, we shouldn't be drawing if we don't have this done. But it all worked out. Kids did great. Yeah, it was a hard decision to stay home, which I'm very glad I had to make that decision, and I did make it how I did. But it was definitely a hard decision at the beginning, because when I went back, I'm like, I love my students, I love my team, I love my administration, and I was like, this all might change. Like, it stayed the same this year, but the year after that, it may change. Like, if I choose to go back, I'm not going to have the same team. I'm not going to have the same administration. So that was a very hard decision for me to make, to leave that, knowing that this year would probably be the last year that it was like that. But I'm very thankful to be staying home with my little boy. And I love my team. I still talk to them. I still help out with, me and the other new teacher that came in with me did social studies, so I still kind of send her stuff when I find things. But yeah, that was my experience as a teacher. If you have any questions about it that I didn't cover here, because I'm pretty sure I didn't cover like any of the actual questions. Some of the training I thought was kind of pointless, but I get like you have to have state trainings and stuff, but I felt like it was very, doesn't anyone know this? Anyways, if you have any other questions, let me know and I'll try to answer them. I will see y'all next time. Bye.